Hello, IT enthusiasts. Welcome to another episode of My Computer Career, Get Into IT Live, where we do just that, get into all things IT. And we are certainly going to do that today, specifically around cybersecurity. Before I jump in, as always, I want to say thank you for joining us on your Friday, and thank you for joining us on your Friday at noon. We always have a blast with these discussions, and it's so nice to share 30 minutes with each of you. All right, so today, you'll see a friendly face. You'll see a new face. Both are very friendly, I assure you. I'm going to properly introduce both of our guests, but we are here to talk cyber resilience. And we're here to talk to a partner of ours in Logically as well. We were just talking about the relationship that we formed and continue to form. And I think it's very beneficial for everyone, especially beneficial for IT pros that are out there. So we are here to talk about cybersecurity, more specifically. By the way, long intro here, everyone. Long intro. The need for cyber resilience for every person and organization. Our friends and partners from Logically held the LogicOn conference a few months ago in Columbus, Ohio. And our instructor team of Russ and Jill actually led a 3-hour boot camp around cyber resilience. The room was packed. It was well received. I was there. There was a lot of energy. I'll be honest with you. I hear 3-hour boot camp, and I'm a little concerned. But it moved quickly, and it was amazing. I was really impressed. So it actually went so well, we decided to do it again and again and again. So we're hitting the road. Big thanks goes to our guest and her team for including us in the upcoming LogicOn Cybersecurity Summit in Atlanta on March 21. So we're here to kind of promote that a little bit, but we're here to talk cyber resilience. So before we dive in specifically, let me do some proper introductions. MJ Patton from Logically, Chief Marketing Officer. In her 10 plus years of experience, MJ has effectively guided marketing teams within a broad spectrum of IT channel orgs, ranging from startups to global giants such as Insight and Tech Data. Her expertise in crafting comprehensive go-to-market strategies and driving sustainable business growth has also earned her spots on CRN's Women of Channel and Next Gen leader lists. MJ frequently shares her insights through speaking engagements, podcasts, thank you, and writings. She holds dual bachelor's degrees in biochemistry and marketing from Loyola University. Great school, amazing degrees. MJ is much smarter than I am. And an MBA with a focus on business analytics and information systems from the University of Maryland. MJ, so happy to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk about this subject.
I agree completely. It's very nice to have you here. It's so great to see a friendly face, an old face, but a new face to the broadcast. And I don't know that it's needed, but there's Russ. Russ is the guy. He is an instructor. He's our program chair. He's our cybersecurity evangelist. Russ was just talking about going out. When did you go out into Raleigh? A few weeks ago?
Yes. Are you talking about my recent certification pass?
Yeah. Well, the recent certification pass, yes. Actually, to be fair, I forgot about that. But I was talking about you going out and doing some educating on cyber resilience in the community.
Yes. Raise cybersecurity awareness for a women's group. Believe it or not, but it was a mix of everyone. I had a packed room, and it was on here in North Carolina, it was on a snowy night. So we had a lot of fun, and everybody was in a panic about the snow, but everybody learned a lot about cybersecurity that night. So,
Russ doesn't just preach it, he practices it. He goes out and he presents in a lot of local organizations. So he is our cyber guru. He has a website. We will talk about the website later, but it's urcybersecurity.com. That's UR. And he also has a Facebook group with over 100,000 members, if I remember correctly, which is the Cybersecurity Lounge.
That's right. I think we're up to 157,000 now. Yeah.
How dare me? Okay. Thank you. Good. All right. That's a lot of folks. So we have a lot of knowledge, and we're going to talk about cyber resiliency. So why don't we just jump right in since I spent so much time introducing everyone. What do you think? Ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right. Note to everyone watching. Questions, anything. Caitlin is here. Caitlin's in the chat. Please feel free to ask and share, and we will certainly, Russ and NJ will certainly answer your questions. All right, so here we go. Russ, why don't we kick this off with you?
Okay.
You've been in cybersecurity for a hot minute now. If cyber resilience were a survival kit for IT pros, what are the 3 must-have items, and why are they so important for staying ahead of threats?
Wow, that's a great question. Now, if cyber resilience were a survival kit for IT professionals, these are the 3 must-have items that I would have. First, some type of incident response plan, and this would be definitely my go-to when things go wrong. So that outlines clear steps to take when a cyber attack happens, and really why you want that is because you want to minimize that damage and of course downtime. So for example, if a company does get hit with the ransomware attack, you can follow your incident response plan really to isolate any infected systems. You can notify personnel, you can start the recovery process to keep the panic level down. So definitely incident response plans are a must. Number 2, I would go with a strong backups. So if something gets stolen, destroyed, right, or if it gets deleted, you have a backup to really rely on. So backups, they should be automatic, they should be encrypted and stored separately from the name, from your main network. So that is very, very important. And of course, my third thing, security awareness training. That is so important. And really, this is like having, it's like having a map and a compass. So really without it, you're kind of lost, right? So employees need to recognize phishing attacks, social engineering tricks, and of course, security best practices. So those are my 3 go-tos.
That was one heck of a survival kit. I love it. So MJ, let's say that you are explaining cyber resilience to someone completely new. What's the simplest and most relatable way that you could describe it so they really understand?
Yeah, so the way I look at it is, imagine you're a tightrope walker. Okay, so you're balancing out on the tightrope. Cybersecurity is that safety net underneath, just in case you fall. But cyber resiliency, it's your ability to recover as quickly as possible, get back onto the rope, and then keep walking without missing that beat. So in today's world, it's not a matter of if it's going to happen, it's when it's going to happen, right? But it's whether it's a phishing attack or a ransomware incident or, an outage, making sure your organization can keep operating with minimal disruption. It's not about preventing those attacks. It's about making sure that when something happens, the damage is controlled and recovery is swift. And so that's really kind of, what Russ was talking about, right? It's minimizing that impact, and it's a non-negotiable for businesses today.
That is a perfectly relatable way to put it. I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. So I guess this next question can be, for Russ, for both of you, however you want to do this, but what's the most surprising lesson or trap companies overlook when building cyber resilience? And how can IT professionals avoid falling into that? Russ, you want to lead?
Sure. So I think one of the biggest hidden traps that companies overlook is assuming that the cyber resilience is just an IT problem instead of a business-wide responsibility. So, many organizations, they will invest in firewalls, antivirus software, and backups, but they fail to train employees or integrate cybersecurity into everyday operations. And, even with strong security tools, right? A single mistake like an employee clicking a phishing email, this can lead to a breach. And IT can't defend the company alone if leadership, HR, finance, and any other teams, they don't take security seriously. And there are ways to really avoid this type of trap. And we have to make cybersecurity a shared responsibility. Train employees regularly, encourage people to report any type of suspicious activity or even behavior from other employees. Leadership buy. We have to get leadership buy. Senior leadership buy-in is so important. So if the executives treat cyber resilience as a priority, employees will too. It's that whole trickle-down effect. That's why it's so important to get that senior leadership buy-in. And of course, you want to test response plans with different departments. So you get different perspectives. So, running those real world scenarios, this helps uncover any of those weaknesses before an actual attack happens. And it's going to happen. And that's the mindset that I think employees, leadership, and, overall corporations need to have these days.
And Russ, you and I were just talking about that this morning in the education sector. The education sector, it's about, donor dollars and where those are going to be spent. And maybe there's not buy-in from leadership, which doesn't then trickle on down. And that's why maybe the education sector is so rife for cyber attacks.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. See, it's not about buying $100,000 worth of equipment. It's about teaching people what to avoid. And that is so much more cost effective.
Yeah.
Aaron, can I jump in with
please.
Because that was actually going to be my answer, Russ, and then you took it. So I was like, well, then I will pivot to something else. Little extra icing. So another thing that companies need to be thinking about is not just their internal teams, but thinking about how are they treating their suppliers as potential ways of impacting their business.
Fantastic.
I was talking to one of our customers, and for example, they are supporting Dell, and Dell made it a requirement that all approved vendors have to meet certain cybersecurity requirements, because most of the threats were actually coming from their suppliers rather than internal. So you need to be thinking about how are you integrating through the processes and everyone who's in your ecosystem that can open you up to risk.
That is fantastic advice. Love it.
That is very true because third parties are so vulnerable. I mean, that is a great point right there. They are so vulnerable. And from my perspective, I don't think any company should do business with a third party if that third party does not fully align with the company's security policies. So, you were dead on there. Oh, yeah.
Amen. Sorry, I had to step out. I had to knock a cat off a counter. Welcome to life. Welcome to working from home. All right. We have a question. Leo out on LinkedIn. I'm taking a cybersecurity course so that I can dive into the cybersecurity field. What advice can you give me to succeed in this field? Maybe just some high-level advice.
MJ, did you want to take that one?
I'll leave it to the expert. Go ahead, Russ.
All right, Aaron, it's all you.
Yeah, great. Get into PR.
All right.
You don't make much money, but you'll enjoy it.
Well, if you want to get into cybersecurity, that's the question, correct?
It is. What advice can you give me to succeed in the field?
Succeed. Okay. My best advice is it's what I do. I am always investing in myself. And the best way to invest in yourself is to have the right people in your circle of trust. That's the first thing. Always surround yourself with people that are going to bring you up, not bring you down. Okay. It's called The Energy Bus. And by the way, that's a great book. I do highly recommend it. Number 2, certifications are huge. Okay. Certifications, yes. The industry moves faster than IT content. However, certifications prove that you are a go-getter. Certifications prove that you know your stuff. And it proves to hiring managers that not only do I have this certification, but I'm willing to learn more. So certifications are huge. And it really tells the story of you and the career that you would like to pursue. So if you want cybersecurity, start with that security plus. Better yet, go for that network plus first, because in order to protect data, we need to know how it's moving. So,
Right.
Get that network plus or related. There are other vendors out there besides CompTIA, right?
Yeah.
Security plus is great. And then take it from there and grab that hands-on experience, because that's going to then give you those aha moments when you're doing it compared to when you studied it and answered questions in the testing center. So get your hands dirty, be a go-getter out there.
So that actually dovetails, Leo, thank you. That dovetails perfectly into kind of the next question. We don't have to dig all the way into it because I think you just answered it. Where do you compare certifications versus hands-on experience? Are they both important? Is one more important than the other?
MJ, did you want to dive in?
MJ's got the next one.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So both are so important. So certifications, to me, when you dive into the content, and I'm only giving it from my experience, because I'm always studying for something. Okay.
Yeah.
It allows you to speak intelligently about the field, about your goals, about troubleshooting, how you solve the problem, why this works and this doesn't work. So the education is key. Education is everything.
Right.
Hands-on that is going to drive that education. You definitely want the hands-on, and that's where labs come into play. If you don't have a job yet, and how do I prove to the hiring manager or to the hiring team I don't have experience? Yes, you do. There are plenty of vendors out there that actually sell hands-on labs that you can dive into. And if you are part of My Computer Career, we have a whole setup for that. Right. So, you can do all that real world stuff. You can also build your own home lab as well. I mean, if you have a powerful enough computer, you can build a whole virtual environment. So there's a lot of ways where you can gain hands-on. But yes, education, hands-on, that's going to drive it. And if you stick to it, you'll eventually get into management.
Got it. And David out in LinkedIn, it sounds like Russ agrees with you. Both education and certs are definitely important. No doubt. Certs are driving home, reinforcing that you have all those skills. So MJ, let's dive into kind of some of your specialty here. MSPs, they're often seen as a lifeline for smaller businesses. Can you break down a practical, budget-friendly way MSPs can help small companies improve cyber resilience without making it feel like a chore?
Yeah, I mean, smaller businesses, they don't have the luxury of these huge budgets, right? And
sure.
And sometimes it can seem really overwhelming, but you can just do the basics to make yourself more resilient, right? So the focus is, putting efforts behind high impact, low cost measures. For example, implementing a layered security approach, things like multi-factor authentication. It is crazy how many people do not do that even today.
Agreed.
The endpoint detection, regular patching, right? Like that gives you a strong protection without a huge expense. Additionally, Russ talked about this, security awareness training. Human error is the number one way attackers can get in, right? So making security second nature for your employees, that will be a huge win. And then having that incident response plan that Russ also mentioned with the backup recovery plan. And then one that's actually tested. Not like you have to dig in under a desk and find it. Be like, oh yeah, this is what we do. That can make a huge difference. And those are all low cost things you can implement.
Right. I love that because, again, it's effort. It's like any other successful endeavor. You have to plan it. You have to plan it correctly. You have to be ready for it. But if you do all of those things, you're going to save yourself time, money, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. So I think that's excellent advice. So talking about that small business, Russ, I'm a small business owner and I'm too small to matter. I'm not going to get attacked. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because a couple of years ago, I did some awareness for local businesses by me, small businesses about basically raising cybersecurity awareness for them because they don't have the budgets. And one of the questions I asked them, I said, if you got hit with a ransomware attack, and that ransomware attack, let's just throw a number out there, $50,000.
Yeah.
Are you able to recover? The answer was barely. Ooh. And, $50K is not, it's a lot of money.
Right.
But, so there's a mindset here. So the mindset is, okay, too small to matter, no such thing. Everyone's a target. Aaron, I'm a target right now,
sure.
Right? Everyone's a target. So the mindset is one of the biggest mistakes that small business owners can make. Hackers love targeting small businesses. Why? Just what MJ said. Because they often have weaker security. They don't have the money, right? So that makes them an easy entry point for attacks. And why are these small businesses at risk? Why? Well, because first of all, they do store a lot of valuable data. And if a budget's tight, they could be storing it locally. So, even small businesses, they have customer records, they have payment details, employee information that, hackers can use, so, again, they are easier targets compared to the bigger players out there.
Got it.
But Aaron, it's all in the mindset.
Sure. Yeah. And you're hearing that, folks. This is a repetitive answer, a repetitive theme in this conversation. It's about a mindset. It's about education. It's about being resilient. So I think it's really important to pay attention to those themes. All right. I actually wanted to give an example, go a little further on what Russ just said, just to kind of drive this home a little bit. So in April of 2024, there was a cyber attack on Greenfield Manufacturing Company. They are a small family-owned manufacturing business somewhere in the Midwest. TechCrunch says the attackers exploited a vulnerability in the company's outdated enterprise resource planning software to deploy a ransomware attack that encrypted all operational and financial data. Sounds bad. To a dude in PR, that sounds bad. The ransom demand, although modest compared to larger businesses, to Russ, to your point, was a significant financial burden for the small business. Analysts estimate the total loss, including downtime and recovery, to be approximately $250K. So, and there was a question here, but I think the question kind of is obvious based on the conversation we've been having. Can we use this example to highlight the importance of cyber resiliency? The answer is yes, we can. All the things that MJ you've been sharing and that Russ you've been sharing, that attack kind of highlights why you need to do it. But you mentioned 50K, Russ. For these folks, it's 250K, and whatever that price point is, for somebody that's going to be too much, and that could shut them down.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just one example.
Yeah.
So can I touch on this because we don't disclose our customers because we like to protect them.
Sure.
But we had a customer where something like this happened and they didn't have a plan in place. They didn't have our security services in place, and they couldn't pay their payroll.
Ooh.
They couldn't send out emails. They didn't have full visibility into all of their servers, and only a portion of them had backup services. The rest of them didn't. So they lost all of that data, right? And it is something that, we have seen other companies kind of push back on, and like, oh, well, that's something for later, or, oh, like that, and they keep pushing it off. But at some point it happened, and the cost of remediation was significantly more than if they just put in, the recommended solutions. Right?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna finish. It's like, can you imagine running your business and not being able to pay your people? What does that mean?
Company killer. That's all I could think about as you were saying that. It can be a company killer.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, MJ, to keep going, and again, this might be a little repetitive, but I think it's important to ask again. You're sitting down now with a C-suite exec. Logically, you go into the company, and that exec thinks that cyber resilience is nothing but an expense. and that kind of goes back to Russ's point earlier. What do you do? How do you navigate that conversation and show that it's absolutely necessary? Because that's tricky.
Yeah, you really have to tie it to the bottom line, right? It's like what Russ said. Can you survive this? Like, how long can you survive that type of downtime? Instead of that cost center, it's repositioning it as this is part of our business continuity planning. This is part of risk mitigation.
Yeah.
And when you do that, now it shifts that mindset, like to we can't afford cybersecurity to we can't afford not to have it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's fantastic. I was just making a note. Can't afford not to have it. I always try to take a quote away from this and use that for social kind of moving forward. So MJ, that's one of the quotes you're going to see, just so you know. So I guess to both of you, if a group of early career IT professionals comes to you asking for one go-to resource that would boost their understanding of cyber resilience, what's your non-negotiable recommendation? And is that something they can easily dig into right away? And MJ, if you want to lead with that, please.
Sure. I mean, I will dovetail off of what we talked about, certifications and training. And I think there's a lot of frameworks that you can dive into, right? So there's like the MITRE ATT&CK framework. Mm-hmm. There's like the NIST framework that you can like, just what are these best practices? But that's probably where I would start, is really understanding those.
Got it.
And also NIST documentation is fantastic. So yeah, I mean, that's all good stuff right there. Absolutely. And Aaron, there's a book out there. It's called the Cybersecurity Playbook. Yeah. And I've used this book before. I mean, it gives a lot of great information. It'll break down complex concepts really into those easy to understand types of wording and language. The book provides a lot of those real world scenarios and tips, right, that IT pros can apply immediately. So it's good to help with that stuff. And but yeah, it's called the Cybersecurity Playbook. I've gone through it before. I thought it was a fantastic thing, and it's something to check out. It's on Amazon or any of those sites out there. But yeah, the Cybersecurity Playbook. And if you really want to start to, dig into cybersecurity and the cyber resilience, I think that's a good start.
That is spoken like a true educator, Russ. I definitely appreciate it. Never stop learning. And by the way, Russ does practice what he preaches. Just we just talked about it. Got a great big, earned another cert, earned some more letters after his name. What was the cert? What did you just finish?
It's the ISC squares. So the vendor is ISC squared, and it's the System Security Certified Practitioner. So again, that's all about cybersecurity and all that stuff. So it's great.
And for everyone out there, just as an aside, Russ has been doing this a long time, and he's still learning. So that's a note for all of us. And MJ certainly, obviously, does the same thing. Please,
yeah. I was going to say, even in my, I am constantly trying to do certifications and reading and everything, staying on top of it.
Yeah, I mean, we have to. Absolutely right. So, MJ, as a CMO, I guess it's interesting to kind of talk about a different perspective from time to time. What do you think? What do you think is most effective in communicating the importance of cyber resilience to businesses? How can, what we do, what marketing efforts are going to directly impact the adoption of better cybersecurity resilience practices?
I think it's really partnering with the IT leadership on how to create adoption within the organization. IT leaders will talk about it of like, hey, this is really important and you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't but if you're packaging it also as kind of like a fear tactic, right? Like, well, look at what happened and like catastrophe, right? Like people at some point are going to tune out. Yep. And I think what marketing does really well is making information relevant to the people you're trying to talk to. So now if you partner with IT and say, okay, let's think about how do we position this for finance and that department? How do we make it relatable to them? How do we use cases of how this could apply to their work? How do we make sure that we integrate into their processes so it becomes second nature? And then have that same approach when it comes to, the sales team and to the marketing team. Like, should marketers be sending out, like, using QR codes everywhere? Right? Like, and it's kind of that education, but doing it as a partnership with each of these departments and making sure it's very relevant.
You are speaking my language in such a more intelligent way. I appreciate that so much. That was great. So Russ, why don't we end this with both of you here? We're going to another boot camp. We just talked about it a little bit to kick this thing off. Logically is putting as kindly asked us back, and we appreciate it so much. Russ is going to jump on the road and head down to Atlanta on March 21st. We will share that link. We'll share that information in the chat. And I'm assuming folks can still sign up. MJ, I'll get the details, but yes, okay. So folks can still sign up. It's going to the boot camp that Russ is leading is all about cyber resilience. This is a one-day Cybersecurity Summit. So for the folks who will be attending the boot camp at Logicon, as things wrap up, Russ, attendees are hyped, loving what they just went through. What's the one thing that you hope sticks with them the most?
That's a great question. Cyber resilience, it's not about preventing every attack. It's not. It's about preparing for the ones that will happen and bouncing back stronger each time. It's a learning experience. And, there's also got to be realistic expectations out there as well. No system is 100% secure, whether it's physical, or more on the cloud. Threats are constantly evolving out there.
Right.
Attacks are going to happen. So again, what matters most is how quickly and effectively you can recover from these negative impacts. And of course, continuous improvement is huge. Team effort is big. Learning to work with your team and achieving goals and all that stuff. So I think those are the most important things as far as getting out of these boot camps. Yeah,
those are really important. MJ?
Yeah, so I would completely agree with Russ. It's not about being perfect. It's about making sure you're prepared. If you could take just like something out of the boot camp that you can then quickly implement within your organization, you're already in a better position, right? Yeah. So that's where I would focus of like, what are you going to walk away with and just implement the next day?
And MJ, we're not just limiting this, by the way, to the Cyber Resilience Roadshow, as I called it. We're not just limiting this to Atlanta on March 21st. There are other events then following, correct?
Yes. So Atlanta is just our first stop, but then we will be in Reno, Nevada, and then we will be in Boston. So I can provide all the links. So if you're spread across the country, you're welcome to join us at any of those. And also, speaking about certifications, if you attend, you actually can apply this as continuing education credits for your ISC2 certification. So it's a huge value add. We're not charging for this event because, one of the things I love about our partnership with My Computer Career is we're trying to give back to the community and help educate more individuals on this. This is an extremely important motion, and we're doing everything we can to make everyone cyber secure.
That's fantastic. Folks, this is a massive opportunity. It's free. You can get CE. I mean, come on. That's a no-brainer. Yeah. And plus, Russ will be there. Look at that.
Come on and hang out.
Yeah, that's right. You know what, MJ, to be fair, I haven't actually given you an opportunity to talk a little bit about Logically and what you're up to and kind of who you folks are. If you don't mind, for someone who doesn't know, can you talk a little bit?
Yeah, so Logically is an IT and cybersecurity services company. We help companies reduce their complexity, make sure we protect their assets, as well as build out for a more secure future. And really that's several things. We will come in and just help you put together plans. We have VCIO services where we can help you from a strategic standpoint, all the way to managing the entire program for you as well and being an extension of your team. A lot of our focus is about how do we create some of these experiences for customers out there. So things like Logicon on the road. We will be doing our huge annual conference later this year in October in Columbus, Ohio. That one will be focused on AI. Right now, that's the biggest buzzword. So, we'll be working with Russ on what does that next boot camp look like? Just constantly thinking of how do we help others build a better future.
Got it. Folks, go check them out. Logically is doing a lot of great stuff. So certainly follow them. Go on social. MJ will appreciate that. Those numbers go up. Rick, see you out in the chat. Good to see you as always. David, I see your comment as well for Russ. Some companies now are doing air-gapped backups so that their backups won't get corrupted like in a ransomware attack. Is that something that you see?
That is an excellent idea. As long as those backups are encrypted, having them air-gapped, no one's going to get near them.
Got it.
No one's going to get near them. So that's a great strategy.
David, great one. Thank you for that over on LinkedIn. All right. Russ, anything you want to plug before we head out of here?
Well, if you want to, I'll learn a little bit more about me. You can visit yourcybersecurity.com. Just like Aaron said earlier, youarecybersecurity.com. And, you can learn more about me. You can always reach out to me. And that's really about it, Aaron. I think you're good.
All right. MJ, did I miss anything?
Make sure to connect with me, follow Logically, and hopefully I'll see you in one of, Atlanta, Reno, Boston, or Columbus.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This was great. MJ, I know you're busy, and I really appreciate you kind of jumping in last minute and helping us out here. And more importantly, really appreciate the partnership and everything that you're doing with us.
Yeah, thank you.
And Russ, I always appreciate it. Joining us, sharing your expertise, but then also working with Logically to share your expertise with a lot of folks. And I saw it firsthand. It helps. It's great. So thank you so much for today. And I'm very much looking forward to obviously hearing about March 2021. I'm out of the office, unfortunately, so I won't be there. But I think someone from our team is going to be there to document the event. So folks, get out there and check it out. Next week, we're going to talk about military transition. We're going to talk with an expert who can kind of help you folks who are in that situation and navigating what that looks like, and maybe finding some education or finding a career after your education. So always looking forward to that. Patricia will lead that chat. So we'll see you then.
Nice.
And in the meantime, I hope the weekend is fantastic. And MJ, Russ, as always, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Right. If you folks want to hang around, I'll go ahead and close this out. Have a good weekend, everyone.
Thank you.
See you.
Enjoy.